And at 23 minutes to 9, Sophie Longden with you for breakfast this morning. And on one side, New South Wales Forestry Corporation describes Corunna State Forest as a regrowth forest that has been harvested numerous times since the 1990s, and hence they're planning to once again sustainably harvest that site in coming days. On the other side, however, a community campaign against the operation has secured thousands of signatures on a petition since June and prompted Eurobodalla Shire Council to seek a meeting with Forestry Corporation next week. To explain the status of current harvest plans for Corunna, I'm delighted to say that Lee Blessington, who's the Production and Sales Manager for Southern New South Wales Forestry Corporation, is on the line for a chat this morning. Lee, hello.
Good morning, Sophie.
Now, as you'd be aware, this is a bit of a controversial issue. There's been plenty of feedback on both sides. As far as you're concerned, what is the current status around Corunna and what are your plans?
Yeah, so this week we've just been finalising the harvest plan, which is now done. And I've just heard this morning that we're going to be publishing that on our website at about lunchtime today, and then also sending it out to some key stakeholders that we've been talking to. And we plan to kick off at some stage next week.
Okay, so the plans for next week to start harvesting, and will that be a daily schedule from then on? Will it be quite intensive?
It will be, the harvesting will go on for approximately 2 to 3 months, and we'll just move gradually through the area. And the area that we're talking about, just for those that don't know, is just south of Narooma, just south of the Mystery Bay turnoff and both sides of the Princess Highway, for a couple of hundred, about 500 metres down to the old highway turnoff.
Now, the ABC understands that Eurobodalla Shire Council has sought a meeting with Forestry Corporation next week. Is that the case, and is that the plan?
Yeah, we've been talking to council. We've been talking to council through the whole process around use of the infrastructure and roads and things like that, and they've asked to have a briefing with us next week just to find out what our plans are and just to go through the details of what we are going to do.
And Lee Blessington, looking at some of those details, can you explain to us, the value and the quality of the wood that you are harvesting and the plans around how much of that forest area will be harvested? Yeah,
sure. So the area that we're planning to harvest, about half of it will actually be harvested. The other half is in exclusion zones for threatened species and riparian protection, around, and visual buffers around some special features. The timber that we're going to harvest, that people will probably notice as they drive along the highway, there's kind of 2 or 3 different sized trees in there, and there's a mature tree and then a smaller tree. And our plans are to just take the mature trees in this operation for high quality sawlogs that'll go to the local mills for processing. And we're going to try and leave as much of the smaller trees behind to grow on as a future product. So it will be quite a selective operation. So people will obviously see disturbance, as with any type of primary production, but there will be a lot of trees left behind that'll be growing on. And we also hope to get a little bit of regeneration from the ground disturbance that we create when we harvest the trees as well. Okay, so
by the sounds of it, much more of a thinning operation than a sort of clear fell.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a very high value forest for us, both in terms of timber value, but also the value that it provides for a range of species and also water protection and the like. So there's a lot of young timber there that's a high value for us that we don't want to disturb now. So very much a thinning type operation.
And Lee, you mentioned those buffer zones and both environmental and strategic buffer zones. What about from the highway? What's the plan around that?
So the trees along the immediate highway won't be disturbed. And then as you go back from that, we've got some modified prescriptions where we are going to remove some of the mature trees, but we're going to do a few extra things with us, the harvesting contractor, to basically be as neat and tidy as possible so it has a minimal visual impact. So there'll be some modified prescriptions around the highway, but the first strip of trees along the side of the highway won't be disturbed at all.
And Lee, you mentioned those areas that will be put aside for, native vegetation and wildlife and threatened species, and that's obviously an ongoing strategy from state forests and from other departments within the primary industries. But I wonder, how successful has that been to date, and are you continuously learning as you go along better strategies to manage the environment around these forestry areas?
Yeah, absolutely. Management of special features in the forest environment is critically important to us, and we've got some very stringent regulatory conditions that go along with timber harvesting as well. So we try as hard as possible to make sure we identify lots of different things. And examples in this Corunna operation, we've got a white-bellied sea eagle nest that we put a 300-metre exclusion around. We've got records of southern brown bandicoot. We've got some exclusions set up around Brush Grove Lane and we've also got the swift parrot that uses that forest for foraging habitat. So we retain additional trees that are suitable for the swift parrot to forage in. And we also, like over time, we've been harvesting some of our forests multiple times, and we check for threatened species and other landscape values before we do any harvesting operation, and we're seeing those species are continuously turning up in the landscape. So the ongoing work that we do is demonstrating that timber harvesting and threatened species can coexist.
And it certainly sounds like a very dynamic approach to that. So in that sense, once the harvesting gets underway, is there going to be a continuing allowance for changes in the environment, for input from the community, from concerns that may be raised once the harvesting commences?
Yeah, so there's a few things you've touched on there. So prior to any areas being harvested, our staff go through and mark up the forest, so make sure exclusion zones are protected. And then also an important part of that process is to check if any other species have turned up in the area. So we might come across things like bird nesting sites or yellow belly glider feed trees and things like that, and they require additional protection. So we certainly do ongoing checks as we're going through. And also we're continually still talking to neighbours and other interested community groups in that area to ensure that we're identifying as much as we can, and working with community to make sure that anything that are of significant value we do talk through, and if necessary can protect.
Okay, and Lee Blessington, finally, if people do want to get a bit more of an idea about the plans now that the harvesting is ready to get underway, can they access that plan? Can they seek some more information online?
Yeah, absolutely. So all our harvesting plans, that's right up and down the coast of New South Wales, are on our website at www.forestrycorporation.com.au, or people can call into our office if they wish as well. But yeah, the quickest and easiest way is to jump on our website, and you can download a copy of the plan and have a look at what we're planning to do.
Lee Blessington, thanks so much for your time today. Great to get that update, and no doubt we'll continue to follow this issue with interest. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sophie.
Lee Blessington there, who's the Production and Sales Manager with Southern New South Wales Forestry Corporation, talking around those plans for a Corunna State Forest harvesting to begin next week, and also meeting with Eurobodalla Shire Council. That's the plan. And as he mentioned, you can access those plans and concepts